Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, back with another video in my Good Idea, Bad Idea series. This is a series where I talk about popular suggestions or upcoming content, explain both the good sides and the bad sides of things to open up a discussion and to give you enough information so you can decide if it's a good idea or a bad idea. For this video, I wanted to bring up the idea of a legendary vendor. I think legendaries overall have been pretty well received, but there have been some complaints about them. The biggest ones I've seen is that some legendaries are so weak that they're more disappointing than exciting to get, and some legendaries are so powerful that you feel weak without them, or that they quote-unquote make the spec too much for something so hard to get. I think there are a couple ways to go about fixing this. One idea I had, and I think others may have had, is to allow us to break down these legendaries into something. Let's just call it dust for now, and then bring in a vendor that allows you to spend this dust for a legendary of your choice. Now this is something that I think has to be pretty severe in terms of exchange rates. One of the major draws of legendaries is that excitement or anticipation of getting the one you want, and this vendor would certainly diminish that if it were a 1-to-1 exchange ratio. I think for this to work, each legendary would have to cost 2, maybe 3 dusts each, so there's some investment into actually getting what you want. This solves that problem of disappointment when you maybe get a bad legendary because it's still progress towards a better one, and it gives players a choice. If you have 2 legendaries that don't have the greatest affixes, would you really want to break them down to have that one that's really good? It's going to depend on the spec, but I think in general it's going to be a tough choice, which is a good thing. Having a tough choice like that adds another dynamic to the game while at the same time giving you more freedom for how you want to customize your playstyle. And while we're on the topic of specs, this also helps solve another issue that's cropping up, and that's the fact that people are getting locked into certain specs. Up until this expansion, with the way gear works and changes its stats when you switch specs, it was pretty easy to be able to switch to another spec without a huge loss. Now, with the combination of these legendaries being spec-specific as well as artifact power, people are being locked into certain specs. There's so much investment now that if you get bored of a certain spec or you just want to try something new, both you and your group are weaker as a result. Allowing us to dust these legendaries helps solve that problem, I think. Say for example, maybe Fire Spec for the mages just took a huge nerf or it got big gameplay changes, so you'd like to try out Frost Spec. If you have these Fire Spec legendaries, wouldn't it feel like a huge waste to even play Frost Spec? And talking a bit more about those design changes, this is something that Blizzard is catching a lot of flack for with the new 7.1.5 PTR. There are some pretty big changes coming, both buffs and nerfs, and it's causing a big stir. This reaction is pretty common with big balance changes, I think, but now it seems to be more extreme because everybody has that investment, of which these spec-specific legendaries are contributing to in a big way in my opinion. So the current way they have it set up creates a lot of problems that I think they didn't foresee, and when even basic things such as class balance changes are affected negatively like this, that's going to be a big problem that they have to fix. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Perhaps also making the dust account wide might be something to look into, but I think that might be going too far at that point. You don't want to make everything 100% obtainable because it takes away something that's very important to an MMO, and that's the RNG factor. For example, if it was guaranteed that raid bosses will always drop the item you want, max Titan Forge, socket, and so on, really what reason is there for you to kill it again? There has to be some RNG and difficulty into getting the stuff you want to keep you coming back, and this vendor idea definitely takes away from that, I think. Personally, I would like to see this vendor because I think it brings more good than bad, but that's just my opinion. So that's about all I wanted to talk about, I guess. For all of these videos, I do have a poll that you can vote on if you'd like to. I like having these because they give you a good idea on where everybody stands as a whole, so I'll have a link to that in the description if you want to vote. The last video in this series was the Cash Shop XP potions on the PTR. In total, at the time this video was made, we had 461 votes, with 224 saying it's a good idea to bring these potions to the US and EU servers, 123 said it was a bad idea, and 114 were indifferent either way. So it was fairly divided. It seemed like everybody who voted yes and no were very passionate about it. So for all of these, I thought it would be a cool idea to pull up a comment which I considered to be a highlight for the winning vote, and I think Andara said it best here. He says that you can already buy the level 100 characters, so the potions specifically are kinda minor compared to that. As long as they don't sell endgame gear, he's fine with it. I'm of the same mindset, I guess, but I do think we have to be a little careful because back when Blizzard didn't have a cash shop with that level 100 boost, these potions would have been seen in a far worse negative light. The level 100 boosts were pretty controversial when they came out, but I don't think it was as bad because they sort of eased into it by releasing non-combat related stuff like transmogs, pets, mounts, and etc. So basically what I'm saying here is that perhaps someday we may ease into gear on the cash shop just like we eased into the leveling boosts. It may seem game-breaking now to straight up sell gear, but it also would have been game-breaking to release these leveling boosts back, say, in the vanilla days. I just think it's something that we should be wary and mindful of so it doesn't get to that point. But that's all I have to say, I guess. I've rambled enough. I hope you found this video helpful. Give it a like if you liked it, and if you really liked it, let me know in the comments and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching, good luck, and peace.